Hello and welcome. Tonight's story explores connection, the invisible bonds that connect us to all other living things, and what happens when we finally learn to see them. May this story lead you to the deepest sleep, to peace, to the understanding that you are never truly alone. In a place that existed between thought and reality, between the visible world and the invisible one, there sat a woman at a loom. The loom was ancient, carved from wood, that remembered when the world was young, and on the loom the woman wove. She wove threads, but these weren't ordinary threads. They were the invisible connections between people, the bonds of love and friendship and kinship and community, the threads that linked strangers who had shared a moment of kindness, the threads that connected people across distances, across time, across the boundaries that seemed to separate us but never really did. The woman's name was Aria, and she had been weaving since before she could. Remember, her fingers moved without conscious thought, selecting threads, interlacing them, creating patterns of connection that spread across the loom like a vast, shimmering web. The threads came in every color: golden threads for deep love, silver threads for friendship, blue threads for family bonds, green threads for the connections between people and the natural world, red threads for passion and desire, purple threads for the connection between teacher and student, mentor and mentee. And then there were the nearly invisible threads, gossamer thin, so delicate they seemed to barely exist. These were the threads between strangers, the thread created when one person held a door for another, when someone smiled at a harried parent in a grocery store, when a driver let another merge in traffic. Tiny moments of recognition, of seeing another human being and choosing kindness. Aria waved them all, her fingers flying, her loom singing with the music of connection. One day, a thread appeared on Aria's loom that was unlike any she had seen before. It was black, not the rich black of deep connection or the black of grief shared. This was an empty black, a void, an absence. Aria's hands stopped moving. In all her years of weaving centuries, millennia, she couldn't even remember anymore. She had never seen a thread like this. She followed it with her eyes, tracing its path back to its source. And there, at the far end of the thread, she sensed someone, a person so disconnected from the web of human connection that they had become almost invisible, almost not there at all. His name was Nathan. Nathan was 34 years old and lived alone in a studio apartment in a city of 8 million people. He worked from home as a data analyst, interfacing with computers, rarely with humans. He ordered his groceries online. He watched shows on streaming services. He scrolled through social media, observing other people's lives without participating in them. He had no friends. He'd had some once in college, but they drifted away over the years. He'd stopped reaching out. They'd stopped reaching back. Now there was nothing. He had family parents, a sister, but he hadn't spoken to them in over a year. They'd Had a fight about something he could barely remember now. Pride had kept him from calling. Time had turned the separation from temporary to permanent. He had co-workers, technically, but they only interacted through emails and occasional video calls. They didn't know him. He didn't know them. Nathan had become a ghost, present in the world, but not connected to it, living but not part of the living web of humanity. And Arya, at her loom, could see this, could see the way his thread had darkened, had thinned, had become almost nothing, could see that if something didn't change, if some connection wasn't made, Nathan would disappear entirely, not die necessarily, but cease to exist in any meaningful way. She couldn't let that happen. Arya set down her shuttle and stood. It was rare for her to leave the loom, but this required intervention. She stepped through the space between worlds and appeared in Nathan's apartment. Nathan was sitting at his desk, staring at spreadsheets, when he sensed rather than saw someone enter his apartment. He looked up. A woman stood in his living room. She was impossible to age. She might have been 20 or 80. She wore clothes that seemed to shift and shimmer, made of threads, in every color. Her hands were stained with dyes. Her eyes held infinite depth. Nathan should have been terrified. A stranger had appeared in his locked apartment, but instead he felt nothing, a vague curiosity, but even that was muted. "Who are you?" he asked flatly. "I'm Arya. I'm a weaver." "How did you get in here?" "That's not the important question," Arya said. She moved closer, studying him the way a doctor might study a patient. "The important question is, when did you last feel connected to another person?" Nathan stared at her. "What? When did you last have a conversation that mattered? When did you last hug someone? When did you last feel like you were part of something larger than yourself?" Nathan couldn't remember. He tried to think back. Months? Years? "I don't know," he admitted. "That's what I thought," Arya said. She held out her hand, and in it was a thread, black, thin, nearly transparent. "This is yours. This is your connection to the web of humanity. Do you see how thin it's become? How close to breaking?" Nathan looked at the thread. Something about seeing it, seeing his isolation made visible, made real, it cracked something in him. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt something. Pain, fear, sadness. "I didn't know," he whispered. "Most people don't," Arya said gently. "They drift into isolation gradually. One declined. Invitation at a time. One unanswered call. One barrier erected against potential hurt. And before they know it, they're like you, alone in a crowded world, present but not connected." "Can it be fixed?" Nathan asked. "Yes," Arya said, "but not by me. I can show you the threads. I can help you see the web. But the actual connection, that has to be your choice, your action, your risk." She gestured, and suddenly Nathan could see what she saw. The room filled with light, with color, with thousands upon thousands of threads extending in every direction. the golden thread that still connected him tenuously to his mother, despite the year of silence. The silver thread to his sister, frayed but not broken. The blue threads to his college friends, stretched thin across distance and time, but still there, still waiting. And everywhere, all around him, invisible threads to strangers. People in his building, people on his street, people who shopped at the same grocery store, walked through the same parks, lived parallel lives that could intersect if only he reached out. The threads were there. They had always been there. He just hadn't been able to see them. What do I do? Nathan asked, overwhelmed. You reach for a thread, Arya said. Any thread. You make contact. You take the risk of connection. And you see what happens. Arya left Nathan alone with his new ability to see the threads. At first, he just sat in his apartment, staring at them all. The web of potential connection that surrounded him. So many threads, so many possibilities, but which one to reach for first? The thread to his mother glowed golden, pulsing like a heartbeat. It would be easiest in some ways. She was his mother. She loved him. She would answer if he called, despite the year of silence. But it also felt the hardest. There was hurt there, pride, the weight of the argument they'd had, all the things that had gone unsaid. Nathan sat with his phone in his hand for an hour, staring at his mother's contact. The thread pulsed, waiting. Finally, he pressed call. It rang 3 times. Then, Nathan? His mother's voice. He hadn't heard it in a year. It cracked something in his chest. Hi, Mom. Silence on the other end. Then, are you okay? And Nathan, who hadn't cried in years, who had numbed himself to feeling anything, much at all, started to cry. No, he admitted. I'm not okay. I've been so alone. And I'm sorry for the fight, for not calling, for letting a whole year pass because I was too proud to reach out. His mother was crying too. He could hear it in her voice. Oh, honey, I'm sorry too. I should have called. I should have. It doesn't matter, Nathan interrupted. What matters is I'm calling now. Can we just talk? Can I just hear your voice? They talked for 2 hours. About nothing and everything. About his life, her life, the year they'd lost. And as they talked, Nathan watched the golden thread between them brighten, thicken, strengthen. When they finally hung up with promises to talk again soon, to see each other, to not let so much time pass again, Nathan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Relief, joy, connection. He looked at the other threads. They were still there, waiting. He picked up the phone again. Over the following weeks, Nathan worked his way through the threads. Not all at once, that would have been overwhelming, but one at a time with care and intention. He called his sister. That conversation was harder. There was more hurt there, more history. But they talked. They started to rebuild. He reached out to old college friends through social media. Some didn't respond. Those threads had frayed beyond repair, and that was okay. But some did respond. Some were happy to hear from him. Some suggested meeting up. Nathan went to a coffee shop to meet his friend Marcus, someone he hadn't seen in 5 years. It was awkward at first. They'd both changed. But as they talked, sharing stories of the years that had passed, Nathan watched the silver thread between them brighten. He started going to a weekly game night at a local board game cafe. The first night, he almost turned around and went home 3 times. The anxiety was overwhelming, but he made himself walk in, made himself introduce himself, made himself sit down with strangers and roll dice and play. New threads appeared. Then at first gossamer delicate, but there, connecting him to these new people. He joined a hiking group. He volunteered at an animal shelter. He started saying yes to invitations instead of defaulting to no. He started reaching out instead of waiting to be reached for. And slowly, gradually, the black thread that Arya had shown him began to change. It took on color. It thickened. It strengthened. Nathan could see the web now, always. Arya's gift didn't fade. Everywhere he went, he saw the threads connecting people, the invisible architecture of human connection that held the world together. He saw the threads between the elderly couple holding hands in the park golden, strong, woven through decades of shared life. He saw the threads between parent and child, between teacher and student, between friends sharing coffee. And he saw his own threads, multiplying, strengthening, weaving him back into the fabric of humanity. 3 months after Arya's visit, Nathan was sitting in a cafe working on his laptop when something extraordinary happened. He looked up and saw the threads, not just his threads, but all the threads. Every single connection between every single person in the caf. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrible. The web was so complex, so interwoven, that it took his breath away. The barista was connected to every customer. She served thin threads of transaction and kindness. But she was also connected to her co-workers through silver threads of friendship, and to her mother through a golden thread that stretched across the city, and to her boyfriend through a red thread of passion and a silver thread of companionship. The man reading in the corner had threads to the author of his book, to the friend who had recommended it, to his family, to his co-workers, to strangers he'd never met, but whose lives had intersected with his in tiny ways. Everyone was connected to everyone, not directly, but through chains of threads. 6 degrees of separation made visible. The whole human race linked together in a vast, shimmering web. And Nathan understood we are never truly alone, even when we feel isolated, even when we've cut ourselves off from connection. The potential for threads is always there, waiting, ready to be woven. He also understood something else. The threads required maintenance. They could fray if not tended. They could break if neglected. Connection wasn't a one-time achievement, but an ongoing practice. You had to reach out, show up, be present, nurture the threads. Nathan packed up his laptop and left the cafe. He had plans at evening dinner with his sister, a thread to tend, A connection to strengthen. 6 months after Arya's visit, Nathan had been transformed. He was still an introvert. That hadn't changed. He still needed alone time, still recharged in solitude. But he was no longer isolated, no longer disconnected. His apartment, which had once felt like a cell, now felt like a home base, a place to return to between connections rather than a place to hide from the world. He had friends, real friends, not just social media acquaintances, people who knew him and whom he knew, people he saw regularly, who checked in on him, who mattered to him. He had rekindled his relationship with his family. He saw his mother every other week. He and his sister talked on the phone regularly. He had started dating someone tentatively, nervously but genuinely, red and silver, threads twining together. And he had started doing something new, helping others see their threads. It started accidentally. A co-worker mentioned during a video call that she was feeling isolated, disconnected. Working from home had made her lose touch with everyone. Nathan found himself saying, "Can I share something with you? It's going to sound strange, but..." He told her about the threads, about how we're all connected in ways we can't see, about how isolation is a choice we can unmake, one small connection at a time. He couldn't give her the vision the way Arya had given it to him. He didn't have that power, but he could describe it, could help her see metaphorically what he saw, literally, and it helped. His co-worker started reaching out, started rebuilding her connections. Nathan did this for others, became a kind of informal weaver himself, helping people see the invisible web, encouraging them to reach for the threads around them. One evening, as he was helping a friend process her loneliness, Arya appeared again. He was the only one who could see her. She shimmered at the edge of his vision, smiling. When his friend left, Arya solidified, became fully present. "You've learned well," she said. "I'm trying," Nathan replied. "I can't see the threads the way you do, but I can help. People understand that they're there. That connection is always possible. That's all any of us can do," Arya said. "We can't weave for others. We can only show them the loom, teach them the patterns, encourage them to reach for the threads." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were so close to disappearing entirely. Your thread was almost black, almost nothing, but you chose to reach out. You chose connection over isolation, and in doing so you saved yourself. You saved me," Nathan corrected. "You showed me what I couldn't see. I showed you what was already there," Arya said. "The threads existed before I revealed them. The potential for connection was always there. You just needed to see it, to believe it was possible." Arya returned to her loom, to the space between worlds. She sat at her ancient seat and took up her shuttle. The threads continued their endless flow, new connections being formed, old connections being maintained or fraying or breaking, the whole tapestry of human relationship in constant motion. She found Nathan's thread. It was vibrant, now blue and silver and gold, thick and strong, woven through with dozens of other threads, connected, alive, part of the web. Arya smiled and continued weaving. This was her work, not to create the connections, those were formed by human choice, human courage, human willingness to risk vulnerability, but to weave them together, to create the pattern, to maintain the great web that held everyone together. Some threads were golden and strong, some were silver and bright, some were gossamer thin, barely there, but they all mattered. They all contributed to the pattern. They all connected one person to another, and through those connections, everyone to everyone. The web was vast beyond imagining. It stretched across continents, across oceans, across time itself. The threads connected the living and the dead, the past and the present and the future. Every human who had ever lived was part of the pattern. Every act of kindness, every moment of connection, every choice to see another person and reach out, all of it was woven into the great tapestry. And Arya wove, her fingers flying, her loom singing, creating beauty from connection, creating meaning from the threads that bound us all together. You are part of the web. Right now, as you lie here preparing for sleep, you are connected to thousands of people through invisible threads. Threads to your family, thick and golden. Threads to your friends, silver and strong. Threads to people you've known and lost touch with, frayed but not broken. Threads to strangers you've helped or who've helped you, gossamer thin but real. You are never alone. Even when you feel isolated, even when you've disconnected, the potential for threads is all around you, waiting for you to reach out, waiting for you to choose connection. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to see the threads the way Nathan learned to see them. You don't need mystical vision. You already know they're there. You can feel them. You feel them when someone you love calls and you're happy to hear their voice. You feel them when you laugh with a friend. You feel them when a stranger smiles at you and you smile back. You feel them when you're part of something larger than yourself, a community, a cause, a shared experience. The threads are real. The web is real. You are woven into it, have always been woven. Into it, will always be woven into it. Tomorrow you can reach for a thread, any thread. You can call someone you've been meaning to call. You can respond to that message you've been avoiding. You can smile at a stranger. You can reach out to someone who's lonely. You can strengthen the threads you have or create new ones. But tonight, just rest in the knowledge that you are connected, that you matter to people, that your absence would leave holes in the web, that you are part of the great pattern of human connection. Let that knowledge hold you as you drift toward sleep. Let it comfort you. Let it remind you that you belong. You are woven into the fabric of humanity. You are part of something beautiful and vast and eternal. Rest in that web tonight. Let it support you. Let it hold you. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You will never be alone. The threads are there, always there, waiting for you. Sleep now, knowing you are connected. Sleep now, knowing you are held. Sleep well, dear one. Sleep in the web of love that surrounds you. All is well. You are part of the pattern. You are home. Rest